Welcome to the Identity Talk. I am Ngami,
I am Hui.
and now let's go with us to discover the most difficult creature to understand, which is human. Our story today will be about Leo, one of my friends. He is 20 years old, currently a senior student in University of Economics, major in marketing. He is working as an intern in branding department. He likes reading books. When being asked, he defined himself as a weird and future-obsessed person.
In terms of methodologies, we conducted a face-to-face interview with him in nearly an hour 2 weeks ago. Then, we applied the adaptive grounded theory coding system, open coding word by word, and found the themes with categories and subcategories.
By looking at the script and coding sheet, we have realized some significant patterns in his response. The most significantly emerging themes are domain and future orientation, which closely relate and may cover his two identities, weird and future obsessed. From these two themes, we developed several categories and subcategories which will be explained in a few more minutes. And the most interesting part of our talk today will be discovering what the sociologists would talk about our beloved interviewee. So let's hear from Marcia with her identity status, Goffman with theory about dramaturgy, and the generalized order of myth, and finally the narrative identity by Lawler.
The domain identified, which in marketing is mainly illustrated in the way he talks about his winners, having different, unique ideas in workplace and teamwork, sticking to them at any cost regardless of other disapproval. Weirdness can be in line with creativity, in the sense that innovative ideas can be viewed as a trend, unpractical to be operated. Weirdness is seen in the way he goes against the way many people do. He does not conform to the common rule or predetermined work because he has told us that he hates being confined. Weirdness, in the first impressions of people working with him as snobbery, unfriendly and hostile. Moreover, how he intends to work in a company is also different for many people. Marketing is a field highly demanding creativity and innovations. That he chose to develop his creativity, that he embraced his creativity, marks the turning point in his majors and then occupations. The process of generating ideas involved the operation of small discussions always happening in his brain, with different voices, different aspects, in the future, not only in the present, to come up with the best ideas. As a result, the ideas are different from the others, standing out of the normal, which is often rendered as bullshit, nonsense, and impractical by others. In responding to these reactions, the interview sticks to us until it's persuasive enough. The next subcategory we defined is his circle of relationship. We think that his circle of relationship is quite small because when people first met him, the first impressions were not really good, usually regarded as unfriendly and hostile. For those who work long with him, the relationship with him is just on the surface because he seemed not to have any close relationship with any of his teammates. Regarding his career perspective, the first small element is ideas environment or workspace. He wants to work in an environment that allows for creativity, which do not impose strict regulations on formal appearance and old-fashioned models. The next element is positions. As he has shared with us, he would like to work from lower positions to the higher ones to get a sense of empathy with others and to see a bigger picture. The interview career perspective also includes his role as a leader. As he described, he seems to have other trust in doing group work, and in addition, he also has his own way of leadership. The last category is his working style. At work, he is very outspoken, clearly announce his goal to people of his team, which is either success or the shit. Therefore, we think that sometimes he seems to be a little bit extreme with the result.
Another identity that Lyle emphasized is future obsessed, which is mostly displayed when he talked about his future orientation. And we recognize that his future obsession is likely to be a mechanism to deal with his uncertainties and adventurousness. The first subcategory of this theme is exploration. Lyle seems to be very open to real life and far-reaching experience by working from the lowest position to the higher one. Moreover, he stressed the importance of lifelong learning even when he is old. He can't bear the idea that he does nothing, which makes him want to be busier by learning new things, rather than being idle and free. Finally, he is open-minded and adaptive to the changing patterns of gender society, and shows his eagerness to learn new things. Another point we figured out about him is his confusion, the mixed feelings, the coexistence of confidence and worry. Although he acknowledges that he appears to be very stubborn, determined, decisive, and assured about his actions, he has constant worries and even obsession about the future. These two things might contradict but also assist each other at the same time. As a close relation to his confusion, he shows a tendency to embrace uncertainty and the disordered state. He is willing to take risks rather than regretting not to do what he wanted. Therefore, he always strives to have an optimistic outlook to failures. Even more, that he embraces the uncertainty connects closely to his work attitude, always open to innovation, not strict regulations. And the final subcategory is the stimulation. It is the possible reason for his constructing this identity. The very substantial stimulation is his father's influence. He told interesting stories in which his father always authorized him to think of solutions or ideas to resolve problems or to complete work. He challenged him, infused him a sense of creativity, of possible future if there is no help offered, no idea to conduct. Therefore, he might have partly cultivated his obsession with future since his childhood. The next factors that facilitate his future obsessions are big transitions that he has been through. They were when he started his university life, moving to Saigon, working in a domain environments. These transitions mark his growth up process as an independent person, which very possibly push him to constantly think about the future.
That's all the picture we have about Leo's identities of awareness and future obsessions. Now, let's move to the next part and see how experts from sociology will look at Leo from their own lens. Come with us today are four famous consultants. Please welcome Mr. Irving Gottman, Mr. James Marshall, Mr. George Herbert Mead, and last but not least, Mrs. Steph Lawler. Although their theories may appear to be difficult to digest, they help to get to know humans very, very much better.
First of all, Marcia, with her theory about identity status, we strongly believe that she would claim Leo to be a moratorium individual who is currently struggling with occupational or ideological issues. He is in an identity crisis considering his occupation. There are three signs. 1. Even when he has already taken his major in marketing, his words show little specific interest and not strong commitment to the field. The only reason he gave about his choice is because his major helped facilitate and make use of his creativity. 2. What is more, being put in a situation where there are mixed opinions about his core value, which is creativity, Leo seems to be a bit confused about himself. This can be implied by his avoidance in labeling himself into certain names of identity. Instead, he used discrete adjectives like reckless, independent, insightful, free, happy. And 3. The future obsession that he already acknowledged to be his remarkable thinking pattern can be inferred as his unconscious fear of his current unstable situation or status. By synthesizing the three ideas above, we argue that the vague commitment to his occupation and incoherent linking among different adjectives he provided illustrate his identity can put him in struggle. Although he seems to be sure and know his greatness and future obsession, he might be unconscious about the underlying problem.
Moving on to Mr. Goffman, his dramaturgy theory includes two main key elements, the fun stage and the backstage. In the fun stage, we can see that he saw kind of sincere performances as an end in itself and with no personal benefits. Regarding this fun stage, the interviewee posed different and strange ideas. He was reckless and determined on his plan, despite criticism, just in order to carry out the ideas. From the quotes, we can see that he, as a performer, has a strong belief in his own actions and is also aware of his audience's belief and emotions. His first unpleasant impressions has nothing to do with his personal interest, namely a so-called relationship. He portrayed himself as rather stubborn, reckless, and snobbish, which did not help him to get on well with his colleagues. The reason why he always appeared difficult may be because he had been taken in by his attitude to work. Moreover, he also mentions one of the disadvantages of being weird is many people hating him. Given that the cynical performance is to gain private interest, the interviewee will not fall on cynical performances category in this aspect. In terms of the backstage, there is a quite difference between what he presents outside and what he is feeling inside. Behind the seemingly confident, snobbish, hostile, brute manner is a person who is always worried and self-conscious. The fact that some people might think the interviewee negatively on the basis of his different working style and idea generations can be explained through what government meant by misinterpretations. According to government, we tend to think of dangerous situations, humiliations, failures, and loss of reputations are the signs to spot a cynical performer. This incident is believed to be avoided by the honest performer, leading to misinterpretations of the interviewee colleges when the potential risk of his idea is too high. Sometimes failure disappears to him and the whole team. Therefore, the colleges might think that he was not sincere enough and he just tried to appear as someone different.
On being asked on his opinion about labeling an identity, he answered, labeling identity to me is such a ridiculous action. From what he said, he emphasized the importance of the whole interview to understand who he is and what is his identity. In other words, he stressed the importance of narrative. It should be noted that the identity weird is labeled by the interviewee himself. He told that the others call him by other words. Therefore, he must have gone through the act of employment, the linking of shared cultural understanding that events take place by self-reflecting, interpreting, and reconstructing at these moments to tell us his stories. The employment process starts firstly from his perception of his creativity as an original quality, then comments from others, to his response to their comments. By finally labeling himself weird, he includes their attitude into his own perception about how to view his creativity. Looking closer at these elements, creativity is the original quality that he has been cultivated and has highly embraced since he was young. It's impressive that he repeated this word 9 times in the context of describing himself, his father parenting style, his working environment, his major at university, and his romantic relationship. When important transitions happened, his creativity is regarded as different, crazy, snobbish by others. He told that I just think others will think of me like this because I think this is what I am, meaning that he did internalize other perceptions to what he means by creative. Therefore, he implots, linking both of these elements throughout pieces of stories and events he shared. constructing the response and protective mechanism of his creativity. He reflects on his mechanism by positive adjectives, namely reckless, independent, insightful, free, and happy, to assure himself and others of his being weird.
Applying myth theory of the generalized other, we think that the interview did not internalize the general attitude and unconsciously choose not to belong to a generalized other, which is his current working environment. Mead argued that the generalized other occurred in the game stage, the last stage of self-identification. This is also the stage the interviewee is currently in, with turning points and big transitions. Before explaining our argument, let's look at the key point of what Mead means by the generalized other. Specifically, it involves how a person puts himself in the shoes of other people, along with his self-reflections, to know the general and the common attitudes of a community, then becoming a part of it. In return, the so-called generalized other has compelling control on the individual conduct in a way that one can internalize presupposed thinking. In the interview case, he mentioned that the ideas he came up with always in for critics all kinds of disapproval. He embraced the risk, uncertainty, adventurousness. He did acknowledge the general attitude of his working environment, and he chose not to conform to the usual thinking. He'd rather being labeled as different in order to work out the best result. Because he's labeled himself as weird, and he's unsure whether people in his company like him or not, it's very unlikely that he feels a sense of belonging to his working environment. In addition, the high positions do not always come along with sense of belonging. Although he was appointed as the leader, he can compromise people of his group under his leadership to get a common goal, but he seems to be alone, worried all the time. During the interview, he did not mention the help of others when he is stuck, and he seems to be too independent to be interdependent in his domains. Moreover, the relationship with colleges and him seems to be just on the surface, not for work only. This can be shown in the quote, "For people working with me quite long, I don't know whether they like me or not. When I do group work, they usually appoint me as the leader." This quote and this quote and other quote, there seems to be very few people in his circle of relationship truly accept his weird identity. Therefore, we concluded that he unconsciously chose not to infuse a sense of belonging and unity to the general domain environment in order not to lose his chance of developing his creativity and his work. With hindsight, the strength of the whole interview can be seen in prepared questions, comfortable atmosphere. However, one shortcoming revealed by the interviewer is the setting. Specifically, he told he was a little bit overwhelmed when the two of us, in a small table, like he would be pushed to answer the questions. During the analyzing process, we did spot some confirmation bias, personal bias, and unexpected result. Firstly, I don't think he got a supporting girlfriend, and the second is that I was quite surprised to know that he's really funny and nice at the first sight. Moreover, he also so determined on his choices. The personal bias will think that might result from our exposures to social media and TV drama, which turns to the confirmation bias. Moreover, as we dig deep into the two identities, we were drawn to how different identities interconnect and interplay. At the same time, they are contradictory and supportive of each other. Last but not least, we found that we all have already learned in this identity class has such a profound impact on how we can understand a person better and deeper. That is to say, the practicality of the theories is out of the questions. For the guided inquiry, we would like to ask two questions. The first one is how subordinate identity related to identity crisis, and the second is can immigrant be considered a subordinate identity? That's also the end of the presentations, and thank you so much for listening.